welcome to episode 8 of the Best Day Ever podcast. This is a podcast about all things crafty and a glimpse into my crafting journey, but it is also where we celebrate with you why every day spent crafting makes for the best day ever. My name is Trisha, and I can be found on Instagram and Ravelry as Tie-Dye Diva. Show notes can be found on my blog at www.tiedyedivacrafts.blogspot.com, as well as in the Ravelry Group, which is named the Best Day Ever Podcast Ravelry Group. If you are a new viewer, I want to extend a special thank you to you for coming to visit this podcast and seeing what I have to say about my love of crafting. And if you are a returning viewer, then thank you for coming back. Today is Saturday, August the 18th, and I'm coming to you from my home in the state of Maryland. It is a somewhat overcast day. I'm looking outside, and so I'm hoping that the lighting today is okay. And I'm also working with just a new small little lighting gadget that I purchased from Amazon, always in an effort to make the viewing experience as enjoyable as possible. So I hope you find that that is the case. So what is on the agenda today? I have some finished objects in knitting. I have some finished objects in sewing, as well as a couple of new works in progress. And let's see, I'm taking a peek down at my show notes to see if I wrote anything else on the agenda for today. I have a couple of new podcasts that I've been watching since the last time I recorded that I want to share with you. Two that I'm very, very excited about. And I think that's about it for the day. So I hope you are in your comfortable seat and you have your favorite beverage and maybe your favorite craft of choice with you, because I do have quite a few really fun things to share with you today. Before we actually get into the meat of the podcast, let me let you know who was the winner of the July giveaway. If you're new to the podcast, we give away a prize once a month to someone who shares in the Ravelry Group what their best day ever moment was, or really anything they're excited about in their crafting journey. So just head over to the Ravelry Group, join the group, and just post something that you're excited about when it comes to crafting. Last month, the month of July, I believe we had 12 entries. Let me just confirm that. I think we had 12 entries last month, and I chose a name by random number generator, and the random number generator chose Sparky136, whose name is Patsy. Patsy says, "My best day ever for July will be going to the SSK market in Nashville with my knitting group." I have always wanted to go to SSK. If I'm not mistaken, this is like the little, I don't know if I want to call it a fiber festival. It's like a little miniature fiber festival, so to say. And I believe it's sponsored by the Knit Girls, Laura and, oh my goodness, their names are escaping me. But you know who the Knit Girls are. They've been podcasting for years. And so that's great, Patsy, that you were actually able to go to that. I think at one time you could only get in by lottery. There's just such a high demand to get into that particular event. So I'm not sure if it's still that way, but just look it up. Look up the Knit Girls, or look up SSK, maybe knitting retreat, and you'll get all the information. So Patsy, thank you so much for sharing with us about that excitement. That is very exciting indeed. And let me share with you what you will be receiving. You're going to be receiving this beautiful project bag. This was made by Kalisha of the Quirky Monday Craftcast, and she is known as Nadira Tani on Ravelry and Instagram. It's just a really cute, I would say that this is maybe a one skein project, perfect for socks or maybe even a small shawl. And there's Kalisha's card there. Again, I think my lighting is going to come back to bite me for little things like this. Anyway, Kalisha, as I mentioned, is the host of the Quirky Monday podcast, and I believe her Etsy shop is called Quirky Monday Crafts. I will definitely link to this information in the show notes so that you will be informed. And also, I'm going to include this caked skein of Plucky Knitter Traveler Aran. This is a skein I had left over from my sweater that I will be showing you briefly. I really regretted that I put this in a ball because I ended up not needing it, but it is an entire skein, and it is a beautiful color. The color is Triple Crown, and Traveler Aran, if I'm not mistaken, it is a merino, yak, and silk blend, so it's quite luxurious, and it's perfect for the upcoming weather we're about to get. I can't believe that summer is just about over, and it's time to start thinking about fall and winter crafts. So yes, Patsy, please reach out to me. Send me your address either through Instagram direct message or on Ravelry, and I will be sure to get this out to you as quickly as possible. While we're talking about prizes, let me share with you what the prize for the month of August is. I always forget to pick the prizes ahead of time, and I think I should do that so that you will know well ahead of time. But I do appreciate the fact that you enter the drawing even though you don't know what the prize is until after the fact. So thank you so much for being patient with me. So for the month of August, this is the prize I've chosen. This really cute, adorable project bag. I picked this up from Hobby Lobby, and it has a Paris traveling theme. There you can see the Eiffel Tower. Love travel, love Paris. And it also has this little grommet here, which is excellent for feeding the yarn through. And I'm also going to include this beautiful skein of Miss Babs Yummy 2-ply. That's so pretty. And the color is, I believe this is Deep Sea Jellyfish. No, it's actually graffiti. So this is the Miss Babs Yummy 2-ply sock in graffiti. So again, just head over to the Ravelry Group. Join the group if you haven't already, and just share with us what you're excited about in your crafting journey, and you will be eligible to win this prize. I have been just overwhelmed by the kindness and generosity of crafters, as we already know in the knitting community. Just so many wonderful, generous people. So I'm going to share with you a couple of other prize donations that have come in the past few weeks. So these are some beautiful handmade greeting cards that was sent to us from Ava, who is, she is Ava Ann Knits on Ravelry. I'm not sure if Ava has an Etsy shop or an online presence. I will check with her, and definitely if she does and you're able to purchase these somewhere, or if she's taking orders for them, I will definitely link to that in the show notes. The project bag I just showed you, this project bag, which is the July offering from Kalisha's shop. Kalisha definitely has an Etsy shop, and I will link to her shop as well. She just mentioned that she's working on some new sizes and designs for the fall, so I will be sure to link to her shop as well. So again, back to the greeting cards that Ava Ann sent. I hope you can see this, and I'm sorry for squinting because my new light is like right in my eye, but this is really, really cool. Can you see that? So basically it's like what's in the mind of a knitter. So cool. And then the other one is glasses. It says, I knit lace in the dark while watching a movie. So this one too is really, really cool. And it's handmade. It's so beautiful. So Ava Ann, thank you so much for sending these as giveaways. So you will definitely see these again on an upcoming giveaway. And she also included these beautiful progress markers. This one is a seahorse. And this one is a Hello Kitty. I'm having a love-hate relationship with this new light here, but we're gonna work it out. So wonderful. So I'm going to store these away for an upcoming giveaway. And let's see, there are a couple of other things that I have. No, just one more. As I think about it, there are a couple of others. One just came in yesterday, another cute little project bag. I'll share that with you next time. So these, look at these two beautiful bags. This one here, which is a African print with African mask. And it also is fully lined inside with a pocket. And I love the batting that almost feels like a quilting batting she used in this one. Absolutely beautiful. So this bag, she sent two, one for you and one for me. And the she that I'm referring to is Melody Ray, who is Melody Stitches on Ravelry. And I think Melody is on Instagram. And Melody also has an Etsy shop, and I will link to her shop. But Melody sent these two bags, one for you and one for me, and I honestly cannot decide which one I'm going to keep because they're both absolutely beautiful. And I love the little hand tag she put on the side. I think I'm going to go with this one for me. So this is the one I'm going to put away for a prize drawing sometime in the fall. And isn't it so appropriate that these prizes that are coming in are in fall colors? So Melody, thank you so much. And Melody also will be offering a discount to podcast viewers. I will, as soon as I get that discount code and her Etsy link, I will be sure to let you all know. Okay. So are we ready to talk about some finished objects in knitting? Definitely. So the first thing I want to share with you are my Burple socks that I finally finished. Oh my goodness, these are so absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna hold one up so that you can get a sense for this beautiful color. So I call these my Burple Vanilla Socks because the color of the yarn is Burple. This is the Sew Perfect Pearls Perfect Sock. And I don't know what else to say about this. A beautiful light fingering yarn. The stripes are just absolutely impeccable. I'm not sure if the camera is picking it up, but the stripes actually gradiate into one another, so it's not like a sharp line of demarcation. They're absolutely beautiful. I just did a basic top down. This is a 2x2 inch rib at the top, and I did an afterthought heel. I tend to go to the afterthought heel more than any other, and a basic toe bind off. So I'm really looking forward to being able to wear these, or they might end up in my gift pile. I have so many handmade socks that I've made for myself, so I don't know. But it's so hard to give them away once you make them because, I don't know, you spend so much time on them and with them. So if they do end up as a gift, they will be given to a very deserving recipient. I really tried to work on matching my stripes. I normally am not that obsessive about making sure my stripes match, but for some reason on these, I gave it a try, and I did really good up until the heel part. So you can see that ended up with a little bit of gray on this heel. and this heel doesn't have any gray. Not a deal breaker by any means, but yes, I'm so happy that these are finished. I knit them on a US 1.5 zing needle. I absolutely love my zing needles. I've been talking about them in every episode. And yep, the love affair continues with the zing needles. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about these. So it's really exciting, always exciting to have another pair of socks off of the needles. Okay, so my next finished object is my dog walker sweater. And this is a pattern by the Plucky Knitter. And she had a knit along, I think it was about at least an 8-week knit along for this sweater. The Plucky, the dog walker is just a basic top-down sweater. Basic top-down construction with raglan shaping on the sleeves. And it has the detail of a broken rib on the bottom, as well as on the cuff of the sleeve. The pattern is written to have a turtleneck, but as I mentioned on the last episode, I definitely decided not to do the turtleneck, but just to make it a crew shape. And I really like the way that turned out. And I'm going to hold this up a little bit closer, hoping that you can see the bind off here. This is a new to me technique. I went with, it's so new, I can't think of the name of it. The tubular bind off. So I would have been just fine doing a one by one rib bind off, but someone on Instagram, I think it was So Many Gifts, who did a tubular bind off on her sleeve as well as on the bottom of her dog walker, and it was just gorgeous. I really like the look. It just looks so clean and finished. But I'd never done a tubular bind off before, so I went on YouTube, as we do, and I found a couple of videos. As usually in knitting, there's always more than one way of doing something. And so I watched about 4 videos, and every video said something different, but getting the same effect. So I kind of put all of those together and was able to comprehend what the basic premise of the tubular bind off was. And I was able to execute it on the neckline of the sweater, and I'm glad that I did. I took a few pictures as I was going along. Once it's a rhythm to it. It's almost like when you're doing the Kitchener the Kitchener bind off. It's very similar to that, but just maybe with a couple of steps that are a little bit different. But it's, once you get it, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And you get this little curved, maybe I'll turn it to you this way. You get this really beautiful curved look to your bind off, and it's also very stretchy, but without stretching out of shape. You know how sometimes when you bind off, you get these little bumps or ridges, or it's just not as neat as you would like. This is a wonderful technique to learn because you get a nice smooth edge. I haven't blocked this. I think I'm just going to do a basic steam block on it, and the ends are already woven in. They just need to be cut. My sleeve, the pattern calls for you to start the decreases on the sleeve much sooner than I did, but I wanted to leave a little extra room in the sleeve just in case I want to layer this. And so that's why my decreases are more so just like right on the edge there, and that doesn't show up when you wear it. It smooths out just fine. What else can I say about this sweater? Love the yarn. Patsy, you're gonna really enjoy that yarn. It is luscious. It is just so luxurious. And this sweater flew off the needles. I think, and I didn't even rush doing it. I probably, if I had knit this sweater monogamously, I probably would have finished in 2 weeks. It just flew off of the needles, and the fit is perfect. It's hot at the DMV right now. The weather is, I think it's going to change really drastically, really suddenly, but for you, I will attempt to try this on and go outside quickly and take a picture, and I'll insert it right here so you can see how the fit is on the dog walker. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about this pattern. Just so enjoyable. First sweater, absolutely. If you've never knit a sweater before, I absolutely encourage you to start with this or a similar top down sweater like this. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So yes, another sweater for the year of the sweater. All right, so that's it for finished objects in knitting, I believe. Let me take a quick peek at my show notes just to be sure. Yes, so that is it for my finished objects in knitting. Now I have a work in progress in knitting that I would like to share with you. And that, oops, slight avalanche there. So my new work in progress is hanging out in this beautiful project bag that I just completed. Okay, I'm putting this by my face so you can see how large this bag is. Okay, and I have big hands even for a lady. Look how big this bag is. It is gigantic. And I want to just to give you an idea of how large it is. Okay, there it is, open. This is the Finch bucket bag, but I'm not going to talk about the Finch bucket bag right now. We'll talk about that when we get into sewing. So what is in this bag is my cherry sweater. The cherry sweater is a top-down dolman raglan sleeve sweater by Midori Hirose. I believe that's how you say her name. I'm going to make sure I link to it in the show notes. Midori is, I believe she's describes herself as a Japanese living in Germany. And oh my goodness, her aesthetic for her patterns are absolutely beautiful. My good knit friend Othello had tagged me on Instagram a few weeks back because she had started the sweater, and I instantly fell in love with it. And I think the reason why I fell in love with it is because it contains mohair. From my very first episode, I have not been quiet about how much I enjoy working with mohair. So let me just show you the sweater. So this is the cherry. This is the neckline. So it starts out with this funnel neckline that sits kind of low on the neck, and then that's followed up by 2 rows of color work, which are really just these basic oval shape little motifs, and I'm not sure if these are supposed to be resembling cherries or not. And then you go down into just some basic raglan shaping, as well as just a few short rows for the back section to give you a little bit of extra space in the back, which is nice. So this is the front of my sweater, and this is how far I've gotten. I'm almost at the point where I can separate for the sleeves. And here's my this is one of my older Sucra miniatures progress keepers. Oh yeah, that's a good picture. It's waffles, syrup, and butter. How adorable is that? So I'm really enjoying this knit. It almost feels like I feel like I'm knitting a luxurious fur coat by making this sweater. Um, this yarn is amazing. So let me tell you what I started out with. The neck portion is plucky sweater held together with drops. This is, let me see if I have it. I don't have, I think the ball band is way on the other side of the table. It's drops, I can't remember it's their blend of merino and kid silk. And not merino, kid silk and mohair. So I held that together along with the plucky sweater for the neckline. And the reason I did that is because I was kind of worried about having the heavier mohair just around my face. I'm not allergic to it, but you know how mohair is. Sometimes if it's like too close to you and around your lips, and you know when you're wearing lipstick and it gets stuck to you. So that's why I chose to do this portion in those two yarns. And my little cherry motifs were done with this. So this beautiful skein of mohair is Collinette. It is a bulky weight mohair. And look at all these beautiful colors in there. I think this is still available. Sorry about that. I think this is still available for purchase. But again, I will link to all of these in my show notes. And I do keep my Ravelry page pretty much up to date. So, what else can I say about this? It's knit on really large needles. The neckline is knit on a size US 8. And the body is knit on a US 10, which is a 6 millimeter. So it knits up really, really quick. There are lots of options with this sweater. You can do wide sleeves, wide dolman sleeves, or you can do short puff sleeves. And I'm going to go for the short puff sleeves. So I'm excited to see how she tells you to execute that portion of the pattern. This sweater will be going to Rhinebeck with me. It is definitely my goal to go to Rhinebeck this year. And if the weather is chilly like it's supposed to be in the winter and not like a summer day for last year's Rhinebeck, this will definitely come in handy. So I don't know what else I can tell you about this. Oh, and the main yarn that I'm using, I guess I should tell you about that, huh? This is called Mohair 2000. And I don't think I wrote down the composition of this yarn. Hold on. I did not. The maker is ELLE Mohair 2000. I'm almost sure this has some quite a high content of acrylic, and maybe it could be a 50% acrylic, a 50% mohair. I was able to get this on a D-stash when I hosted the I guess it was a knit together back in the early spring, and I think it was about 8 skeins of this was in the D-stash. Did you see that big piece of mohair just fluff away? I'm not sure where that came from. So anyway, so that's where this yarn came from. And because the skeins are probably like 3 times this big, it takes up a lot of space. I'm looking at the rest of it on my yarn shelf over there. So I'm really excited to be using this and freeing up some space on my yarn shelf. And hopefully in the next few episodes, I will have another finished sweater to share with you. I think that's all I have to say about this, but yes, just I'm enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. I am using my Zing needles for this also. US 10. And I'm also using this beautiful stitch marker set from MS Designs. MS Designs is a local jewelry maker in the state of Maryland. I believe it's in Bowie, Maryland, where she makes her jewelry. And I was fortunate enough to get this stitch marker set from her a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if she's still doing stitch markers for her shop, but I would definitely link to it because these are absolutely beautiful. And they're really large, so I don't find myself knitting with really thick, bulky yarns often, but when I do, I always use these stitch markers because they're gorgeous. Okay, so that's the Cherry. Cherry by Midori Hirose. Okay, so I'm still working on my flat iron shawl by Tony Lipsy. I won't show that to you because I have not made a great deal of progress in that. I am also working on my my sock yarn blanket, my sock yarn memories blanket. Making some great progress with that thanks to Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. I love her idea of making Sundays the day we work on our scrappy projects. So I've been trying to stick with that on Sundays to give my sock yarn blanket a lot of love. So I've been able to add quite a few squares to that. Yeah, so I think that's it for knitting and crochet. So let's talk a little bit of sewing talk. Let's start off with what I'm wearing. I finally finished my self-drafted A-line skirt, A-line dress. So I have talked on a previous episode about how important it is for me to develop a wardrobe of clothes that I really feel comfortable in, that complement my body characteristics the best, and that I really enjoy making out of fabrics and colors that I really love. So I know for sure that I love A-line dresses. So I've been attempting to look for a pattern, a commercial pattern that was just a basic A-line with short sleeves or sleeveless that I could just put a sweater on with, and I just had not been successful. I didn't necessarily want a zipper. I just wanted something that was just two pieces that I could just put together in a matter of hours, and I just was not successful. So if anyone knows of a pattern like that, please let me know for plus size. So I just kept going on YouTube, and what I was finding was a lot of makers who were drafting their own garments from garments that they own that already fit well. So you basically could lay a garment you have that fits well on your fabric and use that as your pattern. And for some reason that just didn't sit well with me. I didn't want to do that. I just felt like I needed a pattern. Well, after weeks and weeks of not being able to find what I wanted in the commercial pattern stores, I decided to give it a try. And the product of that attempt is this dress. So the garment that I drafted this dress from, I showed you in the last episode. It's just this basic tank that I purchased from JCPenney. And I love the way this tank fits. There's no gapping under the sleeves. There's plenty of room in the midsection. It kind of flows off. So I basically folded this shirt in half. I made sure that it was as smooth as possible. And I traced around it on this fabric. And I gave myself some seam allowance. What else did I do? Okay, so because this is a shirt, I had to draw that line out a lot further to make it a dress. And when I got to the hip part, I just did a gradual increasing of the line out to try to mimic an A-line. And I must have been feeling really adventurous because I didn't even do a wearable muslin. I just did it on this fabric. And I only had about I probably had about 4 yards of this, 3 to 4 yards. So I cut out my front and I cut out my back, and I also cut out a facing for the front and the back, as well as for the sleeves. So I put the dress together, just 2 pieces. Sorry for shaking the camera. 2 pieces, one for the front, one for the back. Did the facing, did the neckline, and then it was time to get to the sleeve. So I put in the facing for the sleeves, and then what else did I do? So then it was time to actually, let's see, after I put the facing in for the sleeves, did I? Yes, put the facing in for the sleeves, and then I sewed it down on the sides, sewed my side seams, and it was then that I tried it on. So I went and I tried on the dress, and these facings were sticking out. And again, the dress fit perfectly. I was so excited. But the facings were sticking out because I hadn't put them in to tack them down. But I got to thinking, man, I really like the way this little piece of fabric looks just hanging off of the shoulder of the dress. I wonder if I can get away with that and make it like a little cap sleeve. And what if I put some lace on the edging to just give myself a little bit more coverage? So that's how this dress was born, and I could not be more pleased. I love everything about it. I love the fit, the silhouette. It's just a pullover. There's no buttonhole, there's no zipper. It's just perfection. And the only regret I have is that I didn't actually draw this onto pattern paper. So that's what I'm going to do very soon, to take that same top, draw the pattern out onto pattern paper, and then that way I'll always have it. And then from there, the possibilities are endless, as far as what sleeves I decide to use, what kind of neckline I would want. If I could do things differently, I would definitely bring this neckline down a lot. But it's wide enough to be able to fit over the head, and it's fine. And I would also like some really large bold necklace to wear with this. I think that's all I have to say about this. I'm just so happy and so excited to have another dress in my wardrobe that I absolutely love. And I'm going to insert a couple of pictures of me actually wearing the dress. Okay, so my next finished objects in sewing are a couple of pencil skirts that I complete. Well, I guess one is half done and the other is done. So this one here is just a basic black pencil skirt. That's my back seam there, and this is the front. And honestly, there's really not a whole lot to show here. There's my hem. I use just a basic zigzag stitch for my hem. I cut out my fabric using my pinking shears, and I did another zigzag stitch for the waistband portion. And again, I did not use a pattern. This skirt here was my pattern. So this is a skirt that I've owned for quite some time, and I love the way it fits. It's just a basic tube, but what I really love about this skirt is that it tends to come down towards the knee. So it gives you some really nice shaping, which I absolutely love. And so it fits you closer in the hip and in the bum area, and but not tight. But just the fact that it comes in towards the knee gives you the shaping without your skirt having to be like skin tight, which is really, really nice. I completed this skirt on the serger. 95% of the skirt was done on the serger. let's see, what else can I say about that, except that I love the serger. I'm really becoming one with the serger. It's just been so wonderful, just bonding with that machine and learning how useful it is in my sewing. We Me and a couple of knit friends got together. Knit friends, sewing friends. Well, they knit too, but they've kind of gotten away from knitting, and we're more so. We'd really like to plan like at least once a month where we can get together and create something. And so last Friday we decided to get together and create our pencil skirts. So this was the product of that get together. Lots of fun, lots of wine, lots of snacks, lots of laughs, good music, and overall crafty shenanigans. And I was able to start on a second pencil skirt. So here's another, this beautiful print. Oh, and this fabric came from G Street Fabrics. Both of these fabrics came from G Street Fabrics, which is an absolute fabric mecca. If you are ever in the DMV area, and you want to find some beautiful fabrics, then definitely check out G Street. G Street also has a $2.99 table, so that's where these fabrics came from. They were both $2.99, and I think I only had about a yard of this, but it was at least 54 inches wide, so 1 yard was still enough for me to get a pencil skirt out of. This fabric here, I think I had about 3 yards of this, and so me and Stacy, my other crafting buddy, BFF, hey Stace, hey Ethel, we call ourselves Lucy and Ethel, because when we get together, I don't know what it is, it's just there's shenanigans. Something is going to happen, and it's so funny because her husband, he always does these check-ins. I know he's checking just to make sure that to make sure we're still living, because I could tell you some stories. It's hilarious. We have a lot of fun together, and I love them both very much. So I get back to the skirt. This beautiful floral, it's some burgundy and rose and oranges and tans. So Stacy and I are going to be twins. We're going to be twinning because we both made a skirt out of this. So this is done. It just needs its elastic in the waist, and I did the exact same thing here, just a zigzag stitch to close in that casing. Look at that beautiful serging. So this is why you want a serger for your knits, because this seam is not coming apart. If you do not have a serger, there are definitely some tips and tricks you can try. You definitely want to be using a ballpoint needle in your sewing machine. You want to use a zigzag stitch. Have your machine set on a zigzag setting, which will help with sewing your knits. And definitely just do some swatching with your a piece of the scrap fabric from your project, just to make sure your stitch length is as you want it. Make sure you're using the zigzag stitch that's going to work. But before I had a serger, I would use those techniques. And yes, sewing with knits is definitely a bit trickier, but it is not an impossibility. And we're talking about less than 1 hour. You can create a skirt. It's just incredible. And getting back to making things that I love, this is another part of my uniform. Bright colored, fun colored pencil skirts with flowy tops and cute shoes or boots. I love them. I absolutely love them. So I'm so happy to be adding these to my my wardrobe, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about those. My final sewing project is, let's get to the Finch bag. Okay, so this is the Finch bucket bag, and this bag was designed by Jade Prosser, who is Stitch Mischief, and she is Stitch. Let me make sure I have her her name correct. I will definitely link to it, but I do believe she is Stitch Mischief on Instagram. So the Finch bucket bag is a bucket bag with a contrasting body and bottom. It is fully lined, and it also has a pocket that spans the entire bag. I'm going to try to show you my pocket without having an avalanche. There we go. Can we see the pocket? And of course, I made my pocket in orange. There we go. Okay, so I have some yarn in here, and I put this yarn in here because I want you to understand how huge this bag is. I have 6 100-gram skeins of yarn in this bag, and I was still able to fit my cherry sweater in the bag. It is huge, and I love that. I think I'll always lament about how I feel like my project bags are never large enough for my sweaters. So this fits the bill. So Jade, thank you for just an amazingly well written pattern. There are no pieces to cut out. She tells you the dimensions for all of the pieces, including the drawstring casing, which is here, as well as for the pockets that you can see on the inside, as well as the lining. I chose just a basic, I believe it's just a cotton muslin that I use, basic white. This fabric collection, I believe this is the Robert Kaufman Essex linen, in steel, I believe, or it's fog is the color. And there are my beautiful pins, which is a cotton and steel design. And it also features this beautiful webbing, which is great as a handle. I believe the pattern calls for you to use a 1-inch, but I didn't have a 1-inch. I only had a 1.5 inches, so that's what I used, which worked out perfectly. You can do either this cording for your drawstring, or you can use ribbon. This cording is really acting as a placeholder. I really don't like it. It's not as substantial as I would like. I purchased it from Hobby Lobby, and it's like the edges feel like they're kind of fraying. You can kind of see how they're just blowing all over the place. So I'm either going to redo this with some ribbon, or either look for a better casing. But yes, highly recommend this bag, and I cannot wait to make more. There is a pattern update for the bag, so if you purchase the pattern now, you will also receive instructions on how to knit the smaller Finch bag. And I'm going to, if I can, I'm going to insert a picture of the smaller bag here. This pattern also includes an option for a patchwork version. So if you have, maybe you don't have the full width of fabric to make the larger version, or you have a lot of scraps of fabric you want to get rid of, then you can also make the patchwork version of the Finch bag. So yes, I absolutely enjoyed every minute of making that bag. Let me get one more sip of tea. Okay, we're moving right along, and I think that's the only thing I have to share with you in sewing. I do have a lot of plans for sewing. So many things I would like to do, but time and energy is always an issue. But I definitely have a lot of fun, exciting things coming down the pike. So let me share with you one acquisition that I meant to share with you on the last episode, but I totally forgot. And it's these 3 beautiful skeins of yarn that I am so in love with. Okay. I don't think I mentioned these on the last podcast, and if I did, I'm sorry. That's just how much I love them. This yarn is from the Queen's Yarn Boutique, And this is the Pop Life Merino Fingering, which is a 100% superwash merino wool. It's 490 yards, and I'm hoping that the lighting cooperates. Yes. So you've got some purples and some blues, but there are also some interesting yellowy greens in here. Let me see, can I find a skein that has some of the yellow? It's just there it is right there. Can you see it right there? I have 3 of these, and they're definitely going to be a sweater. I just have to figure out which sweater. There it is. Do you see those beautiful greens? Oh, I love this. And this base, it's a 100% merino, but it's unlike any merino that I've ever owned before. So great job on these. These, again, from the Queen's Yarn Boutique, and I purchased these on sale. She was having a 50% off sale in her shop, and I believe that sale is still going on until the end of the month. So she's getting low on, oh my goodness, look at that green. I'm distracted by these myself. She's running low on inventory, but there are still some beautiful things left in her shop. So please go and support Queen's Yarn Boutique and buy up everything she has before I give in to temptation again. Wonderful, wonderful. Queen's Yarn Boutique also has a podcast. I should mention that too, that I enjoy very, very much. So I'm going to link to all these things in the show notes so that you will know where to go to find all these beautiful things and all these other wonderful podcasts. So that leads me into what am I watching? So the Queen's Yarn Boutique, that is not the name of her podcast. I will definitely link to it in the show notes, or either put it right down here. But the other 2 podcasters that I wanted to mention to you are, the first one is Jade Prosser, who is Stitch Mischief on Ravelry. She has a podcast, and the name of her podcast is Mischief Maker. I'm so sorry. Mischief Maker is the name of the podcast, and it's her lighting, her demeanor, her talent. It's just blew me away. She is from the Pacific Northwest, I believe, and she is in, let me get this correct, I don't want to misquote. She lives in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, British Columbia. So Jade quilts, she sews, she's a pattern designer, she's a yarn dyer, and now a new podcaster, amongst many other things. She's also a mom to young children of various ages. She homeschools her kids, and she has a really cute haircut. So, and I just really enjoy her presentation. It's a multi-craftual podcast, just like this one. So if you enjoy watching this, you will really enjoy watching Jade. So definitely check her out. And then finally, the other podcaster that I have actually been binge watching, because Jade's podcast is fairly new. She has 3 episodes. But this other podcaster I've been watching, who is called Yarning Over the Days, the host's name is Constance, and Constance records from her home in South Carolina. So Constance also has a multi-craftual podcast. She sews, she knits, she crochets, and let's see what else. Constance loves vintage clothing, and everything she makes, and the way she wears her hair, and the way she carries herself. She's just this just little cute petite southern belle and just a breath of crafting sunshine. So I was just blown away by just the volume of things that she's doing. And I've learned some things. I love her precision and the methodical way at which she goes, decides which projects she's going to work on. And I just thoroughly enjoy her presentation. So I think I'm all caught up. I think she's on episode 15. So I've been like peeking in here and there, and just trying to catch up on her podcast. So I thoroughly enjoy her presentation, and I'm sure that you will too. Okay, so that brings us to the time where we wrap up. I have been this so this is episode 8, and I realized that I really have not shared a lot of information about myself. So when it comes to social media, I'm always torn between how much information is too much information to share, and I'm still not quite sure about that. So what I will do, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm gonna put a little discussion, start a discussion in the Ravelry group. If there are questions you would like to ask of me, about me, then feel free to ask them. And if I can answer them on the YouTube channel here, then I will be sure to answer them. If it's a question I don't want to answer on the YouTube channel, then maybe I will personal message you that answer. I think I mentioned to you that I'm married, and I do want to share with you that this weekend, my husband and I, whose name is Ray, we're celebrating our 31st year. We're celebrating 31 years of marriage. And I don't know, he's the light of my life, and I love him very dearly. He puts up with all of my shenanigans, my crafty shenanigans, and he's just the sweetest, most supportive husband I could have ever asked for. So that's what's going on personally. Also, Ray is going to be joining me on the podcast at some point. I always knew he would join me at some point as we talk about so many things. I want to talk about cooking, as we come across recipes. I don't follow a lot of recipes, but I do read a lot of recipe books in an effort to get ideas, and then I'll come up with my own thing. I find it very difficult to just stick to a recipe. And I like the idea that what I create is something that I created from my own. And an example of that was last week when I made pickles. If you follow me on Instagram, then you saw that. And I'm going to insert a picture here of my pickle making experiment. So I didn't follow a specific recipe for that. I followed more so like a I guess I don't want to say a pattern, but when you make pickles, you need your brine and you need your spices. That's in an airtight jar. I didn't can them to be used for future times, to be able to store. They were quick pickles, so you make them and you store them in the refrigerator, and they're ready to eat 24 to 48 hours later. And they were delicious. So I will also link to that. I'm going to try to get all that information into the blog post about this episode, or I may do a separate posting for the pickles. It sounds like a tongue twister. Try to say that fast 5 times. A separate posting for the pickles. Okay. Finally, a little bit of personal that I want to share with you is that unfortunately I have to have some major surgery this coming Tuesday. And so I expect to be completely okay after surgery. I just had major surgery last year, and I was just feeling like I was feeling back to my normal self again. So it's disappointing that I have to revisit this issue again. But I do, like I said, expect to make a full recovery. And that means that I hope to be able to record in September. But if I don't, then you know why. If I'm not able to record in September, then I will definitely announce the prize winner for the month of August in the Ravelry group, and I will tag the person who wins, or I might do it on Instagram. I hope to be feeling well enough to record, but I definitely won't be pushing myself to do that. But you can best believe that I will be crafting as much as I can. I'm going to try to set myself up with my simple knitting projects, and I think my sock yarn blanket will be keeping me company for quite a while. And yeah, so such is life, right? But again, like I always say, we're just so blessed, and so I'm just so happy to have, first of all, a supportive family, so many supportive friends, and so happy to have crafting to keep me distracted from life's ups and downs, right? And when it comes to health, one thing I wanted to put out there, like I said, we don't necessarily want to give too much detail about health issues, but I've had this idea in my mind that I want to have a special episode as it relates to health, because I know I've had to give my health a lot of attention here lately as the years have gone by. I've unfortunately had to deal with some pretty serious health issues, and it's just been a wake-up call for how important it is for me to take better care of myself. And I know me and a couple of my close friends, we like to play off health tips and recipe ideas with one another. I have a couple of friends who also suffer from chronic illness, and I think it would be really good to bring us together and to just talk about some of our challenges, and to talk about what we're finding that works, how we're using our crafting, be it cooking, knitting, sewing, how we're using it to help us to get through life dealing with chronic illness. So if that's something that you think you'd be interested in, then let me know. I have a lot of ideas, so many ideas for how I want to proceed in the future with the podcast, and I just hope that you stick around to see some of the things that I have coming down the pike. So that about wraps it up. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a new viewer and you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to hit your subscribe buttons. Tell your friends about the Best Day Ever Crafting Podcast. And never forget that every single second of every day spent crafting makes for the best day ever. Bye-bye.